Welcome to Better System Trader, the podcast to help systematic traders of all levels improve their trading. We'll give you loads of expert tips and practical advice on system design and validation, money management, trading psychology, and many other topics. Whether you're just starting out or a savvy systematic trader, we're here to help you improve your trading and find more success. This is Better System Trader with your host, Andrew Swanscott.
Hello and welcome to Better System Trader. It's great that you could join us today. In this episode, we're going to discuss something a little bit different, and we're going to explore if meditation can help traders get an edge. Now, I have to admit, I'm a skeptic. However, I've had so many people recommend meditation to me in the past. Successful people I have a lot of respect for. In fact, some of the previous podcast guests, some big names, have shared with me how powerful meditation has been for them, both personally and for their trading. But it's not just traders. Many successful business people swear by it too. So what's all the fuss about? I'm always on the lookout for anything extra that can give us an edge in the markets. So could meditation be something we can harness to our benefit? Or is it all just some weird mumbo-jumbo sham? Well, it's time to find out. So in this episode, I speak to Adam Grimes about meditation and trading, including what is meditation and does it actually work? What are the benefits and drawbacks of meditation, and can it really help traders become better? And also how to get started and what to expect. Now, this is only a short episode, so even if you're a skeptic like me and think this may have nothing to do with trading, I recommend you take a listen anyway. Try to approach it with an open mind and form your own opinion from there. So let's jump over to our chat with Adam Grimes. Hi Adam, welcome back to the show. It's really great to have you here again.
Thank you. Good to be back with you.
Now there's a specific reason that I've asked you to come on the show again today because, and it's actually a little bit of a selfish or a personal reason behind this episode, which I'll explain in a minute. But I think it's probably something that other people are interested in or could find some benefit from as well. Now, over the course of the past year or two, speaking to lots of successful traders, successful business people, or people in any field, I've been trying to find out what factors have really helped them to move forward in their careers or in their life. And something that keeps coming up is the practice of meditation. Now, to be really honest, I'm personally a little bit skeptical about meditation, and it's something that I've kind of resisted for a long time, but I keep hearing these successful traders and people that I really respect sharing the benefits that meditation has had on them. So this year I've decided that one of my goals for 2017 is that I'm going to try meditation for myself and see what all the fuss is about. Now, Adam, I know from your website and podcast that you meditate, and obviously you're a trader too, so I thought it might be interesting to invite you back on the show to have a chat about meditation, and it's great that you've kindly accepted. So thanks again for joining us today.
Well, you're welcome. And I think this is an interesting and important topic, and I think your personal interest actually gives us I don't know what the word is, but it gives us a good focus for the conversation, I guess, because I would argue that the right way to approach this work in many ways is with a kind of an open-minded sense of expectation. If we do it to try to get specific results, we can run into some issues. But on the other hand, it is also a practice where you should see some results. And it's not something that you have to just accept on faith with a bunch of, hand waving and mumbo jumbo. If it actually does anything, you should rather quickly start to see some effects. So I know that's kind of what I just said. It even contradicts itself a little bit, but I think a lot of the thoughts and realities about this practice is that there is some contradiction wrapped into it by necessity.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully our conversation today you can address some of my skepticism. But first, how about we just start with a little bit of background in how you actually got started with meditation?
Well, so like most things in my life, my experience was not a straight and logical path. A lot of threads, a lot of a lot of kind of winding and twisted paths got me here. I think my first exposure to meditation was when I was doing martial arts when I was much younger, and I worked with some teachers who were very much into the label that is put on it today is energy work, but it's the idea that you can manipulate energy in your body, and this is the driving unifying force behind a lot of schools of thought of yoga and a lot of martial arts and a lot of similar practices. Meditation was a part of this. That was the first exposure I had. I also had when I was a musician in college, I was looking for ways to learn more effectively, quicker, deeper, better. And I worked with some professors in the psychology department who were doing they were doing some research, and they were actually using a specific kind of relaxation as a reward. Like when a dog does something good, you give them a treat, but there's actually a way to relax a person so that it feels nearly ecstatic, and the relaxation state itself can be a reward. And so I explored that, and that kind of took me down some other paths. And it's been something that has been a part of my life off and on. I would say there has never really been a significant point in my life when meditation was not a part of it. There certainly have been points where I've focused more deeply on the practice and gone more deeply into it. But it's been, I guess for longer than I've been a trader, it has been part of how I think and how I approach the world. So it's a very, very important part of my worldview.
So what type of benefits have you actually seen through the practice of meditation?
Well, again, I think it's for me to really answer that question, I would have to be able to do some kind of control and say, this is me off of meditation, this is me on meditation. And I don't have a really great sample of me off of meditation. But I'll tell you what I do hear very consistently from, I put enough material out there that many people have experienced meditation through some of the resources that I put out, and I hear the same types of things. The sense of calm, the sense of balance, the sense of being able to, not that you're not emotional, but to be able to stand back from your emotions and to experience your emotions as something that happens to you, is kind of like the weather. It's something that happens to you, but it's not something you are. And people report a lot of things, but I would say that those are some of those are some of the key benefits that I think show up for a lot of people rather quickly.
Okay, but what about benefits that are specific to traders? Are there any kind of advantages to meditation that can be brought into the trading world?
Well, so here's where we kind of run into some difficulties. I think one of the mistakes we as a culture today are making with meditation is it's being presented as do this, get this. So it's like, if I do these things, I pass this achievement level in the video game and I will get this result and this reward. And, I can't be too critical of that because, as I said at the beginning of this conversation, we should expect to see some results. But there's a subtle difference from somebody going into the practice with an open, critical mind. You absolutely should be critical. This is not in any way. There's no necessity to leave your critical thinking behind. You definitely want to evaluate. You want to see what's going on. But if you do it expecting concrete results, those expectations will actually get in the way of the practice and get in the way of your results. So the best way to go into this is with, I would say, an open mind, an open heart, but yet a critical mind, so you're evaluating and judging and giving the practice time to work. Now, with that disclaimer, and I think that's an important disclaimer, I do think people, it's hard to say what's right for traders because, as you know, and from your experience from talking to a lot of people, traders cover a huge spectrum. Yeah. Traders cover of personalities, development stages, styles of trading. And I think for many traders, particularly the traders who struggle with emotional mistakes, the traders who struggle with these various cognitive biases, we get into mindsets where we cannot properly process conflicting information because of the emotional charge. And I think the emotional balance that can come from a practice of meditation can potentially, for some traders, be very helpful.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the benefits of meditation, but what about some of the disadvantages? Are there any dangers with meditating?
Well, and I think this is an interesting topic because it's something nobody talks about. We always just think of meditation as something good, something you can do, and maybe you'll get something out of it. Maybe it'll just be time wasted. But like anything that is effective and real and powerful, there could be a bad effect. One of the things that can happen is, and the traditional schools and structures where meditation grew up, people are very aware of these things. And meditation teachers are equipped to deal with these issues. People who meditate, let's not put too fine of a point on it. At some points, you may start to see things. You might hallucinate. You might have auditory hallucinations. You might smell things that are not there. People see things like gold snowflakes, blue light. They'll hear bells and things like that. So this is strange and perhaps mildly disturbing to mildly amusing, depending on your frame of reference. There also can be a bit of a separation. As you and many types of meditation, like one of the very effective simple forms of meditation is you just sit in one place, and when you have thoughts, as we all do constantly, there's this chattering mind in the background. We don't become involved with the thoughts. We experience the thoughts. We experience you having the thought, and then you let the thought go. That's a form of mindfulness meditation where you are separating yourself from your thought stream. And eventually what happens with that practice is, and when I say eventually, it can take a long time, many, many months to perhaps years of that practice, but you'll reach some spots where the mind eventually shuts up and that constant background clatter goes away and you experience your consciousness without this flow of thought. And sometimes people going through that type of meditation can experience some type of dissociation, perhaps because it encourages you to see yourself from a different perspective. I think also another thing that we need to be aware of is that meditation is not a magical cure-all. In fact, there are a lot of studies that are suggesting now that while meditation has a lot of positive effects, for certain types of learning, if you approach it in a meditative perspective, it might actually impair learning. So we need to just be very aware of what the tool does well and where it might be best used and also where it might not be so appropriate.
All right, thanks, Adam. So let's move on now to, I guess, the implementation side of things. So you've mentioned already that there are a couple of different techniques, and I'm sure there are more than what you've kind of alluded to there. But how do you actually choose a style or a meditation technique that suits you?
Well, there are, I personally am aware of a few hundred techniques for meditation, and I'm sure that I only know I'm sure I know a lot less about meditation than I do about trading. I'm sure there are thousands of techniques and variations of techniques. I would say broadly, and I didn't really think about this before this call, but they separate into more or less passive techniques, where and at the extreme end of that is a type of meditation where you simply sit. And this is the sitting meditation that people in the extreme cases will do for hours. And typically what these people are doing is literally just sitting. And your answer to, what do I do with this practice? You just sit. How do I think about this? Or the answer is you just sit. So that's one example. And then there are there are these passive techniques, and then there are the more active techniques. The more active techniques can involve manipulating your breathing in different ways. There are moving meditation techniques where you walk, or where you move your body through certain forms and certain shapes. And there are active techniques where you use visualization. You imagine things happening, and that's part of the meditation. There are also meditations that involve a focus, where a very simple example might be you sit in a semi-darkened room, you light a candle, you put the candle at about eye level, and you close your eyes about halfway, and you just focus your eyes on the candle. That is a visual focus. You also could do the same thing with a geometric pattern. There are sound mantras, as I said earlier, where you're either repeating a phrase over and over and over, aloud, almost in a whisper, or completely silently. One of the most famous forms of meditation, of course, is transcendental meditation. And all that form of meditation is somebody gives you a phrase, and you sit and repeat that phrase silently in your head. And what this is it's with all of these things that we're focusing on, it is the attention is usually focused on many different things. And, so like, even as I'm sitting here focusing, talking to you, my attention is probably on a dozen different things. And when we meditate, we bring that focus to a point. It almost does not matter what that point is, but we bring the consciousness, the attention, to one place, and we keep it there. But the essence of the practice is at first focus. So I would say what people need to do when they're starting out is, first of all, you need to educate yourself a little bit about the possibilities and the different kinds of meditation that are out there. And I do have a free resource for that, which we can talk more about in a moment if you want. But I think it's good to experience several different kinds of meditation. And what you probably will find as you go through and try, some of these feel good, some of them feel horrible. And probably what you should do, what I was taught to do, is you pick two techniques to work on at a time. One is the one that feels most natural, and the other is the one that feels the worst, because you'll learn something from that too. So if you do that, then it's also one of the problems people have is, well, gosh, how do I meditate for, at first your question is going to be, how do I meditate for 20 minutes a day? And if you're doing two different things at two different spots in the day, then it's a little bit easier to see how that might be possible.
Yeah. Okay. So you just kind of mentioned 20 minutes there. How long should people meditate, and what time of the days do you think is the best?
Well, as for time of the day, again, it depends on the person. One of the things that you probably, nothing bad is going to happen if you fall asleep, but it's probably not the most productive to do this when you're very tired and you just fall asleep. That's, meditation. I suppose if you have trouble sleeping and meditation can help you sleep, maybe there's some benefit there. But if meditation is not just a way to get to sleep, you want to provide for physical comfort. You want to be as free from distractions as possible. So whatever that looks like in your life, in your day, that's the best time you should do it. As for how long you should do it, well, I don't really know how to answer that. do I answer it truthfully? Because the answer is a little off-putting, frankly. And I would hate to say something here. The reality is if you meditate 5 minutes a day, you're going to get benefits. And you're going to be better off meditating 5 minutes a day than meditating 0 minutes a day. But what people who meditate for a long time find is that it takes a while in each session for the mind to really reach this meditative state. And perhaps for some people, that's half an hour to an hour of just kind of preparatory work. So I think most people who maintain a serious, deep practice will tell you that an hour is probably roughly the right time. An hour, maybe twice a day if you can carve it out. It is something, and I know a lot of people are listening to this and they're thinking, well, there's no way I don't have 2 free hours out of the day. It is the type of practice that, obviously you work into that. You can't, it would be pure torture to have somebody start meditating and just make them sit in one place for an hour. You can't do it right off the bat. You start with 10 minutes and you gradually increase the time. 2 things about these long meditation sessions. It can be easier to meditate for an hour and a half than it is to meditate for 10 minutes at first. When you start meditating and you're sitting for 10 minutes, all your mind can think is, am I done yet? How long's it been? Am I done yet? And you open your eyes and look at the clock and it's been 3.5 minutes. And you go, oh, this is miserable. And this is completely normal. This happens to people and they think I can't meditate and they quit. But it's just normal. You just have to get through this. But you do reach frankly, a state of altered consciousness when you sit for a long period of time. And you'll sit for an hour and a half and it will seem literally like no time has passed. The perception of time becomes very, very different. Not always, but it happens. I think the most difficult meditation is starting meditation. I think this is why, if people are honest about it, probably a lot of people listening to this have tried to meditate. Maybe they got a book. Maybe they got one of the apps. Maybe they just read, and they did it for a few days, and they came away with the idea, oh, this sucks. I can't, this sucks, or I can't do it, or it's just not for me. And they don't realize that the first few weeks that you try to do this are incredibly difficult. And once you get over that hump, it gets better.
Yeah, okay. Can we just talk about these challenges a little bit more when getting started? Because you just said that it's the first couple of weeks are incredibly difficult. So what can we do to try and make that process easier?
Well, the ultimate answer is you just do it. You commit to the practice and you just do it. And the answer to every difficulty you have, you just have to just keep coming back to it gently. And you have to know that some days will be a lot better. And what you probably find is if you say you're going to sit for 5 minutes, those 5 minutes are pretty hard a lot of days. But then you'll find you have a day or two where you sit for 8 minutes, you sit for 10 minutes, and it was actually kind of pleasant. You enjoyed it and it wasn't really that hard. And you'll think you're getting somewhere, but then you'll have another day where you go into it and for whatever reason, 3 minutes is very hard. So like anything else, as we learn, there's kind of ups and downs and back and forth, and you just can expect that. But there are some people struggle with when you start to sit or lie down. And I think for many types of meditation, sitting is probably better, but you need to respect the realities of your body. If you have a back injury or hip or knee problems, then you have to sit in some way that's comfortable for you. You certainly don't have to sit cross-legged in lotus position on the floor. Pay attention to your body alignment. Make sure you're sitting in a way that respects the shape and structure of your body and gravity. There's a right and a wrong way to do that. And you can certainly find resources on that. But once you're aligned and you're removing unnecessary tension from your body. And notice I say unnecessary tension because you don't remove all tension. If you did that, you would just fall into a puddle on the floor. If you're sitting up, some muscles in your body are strategically braced and holding your body against gravity. And once you learn that, you learn how your body works a little bit more, the discomfort and the pain will mostly go away rather quickly, but it can be physically difficult at first. But I think think that probably the best way for somebody to get started is just to commit that you're going to try it for a while and, go into it with no expectations, but do go into it with an evaluating, critically aware mind. So you are looking at what's happening and you see what happens.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, you've mentioned a couple of free resources, which I'll ask you about in a moment, but just one kind of final question. What would you say to people who are skeptical about meditation?
Well, it's something that you can experience and see for yourself. You notice I've actually, in this conversation, I think I've been pretty soft on the benefits. I haven't tried to sell it. Oh, do this and this will happen. You can certainly find plenty of resources where people will talk about that. Increasing concentration, focus. You can see these things happen for yourself. You don't have to accept them on faith. You don't have to accept any mumbo jumbo. You should be able, after you do this for a while, to see some type of concrete influence. And if it does not, if it doesn't make your life better, then after you have legitimately given the practice a chance, if it doesn't do something for you, then perhaps there's no reason to do it.
Yep, well said. Okay, so before we start wrapping up, do you want to just give us some indication of the free resources that you mentioned a little bit earlier?
Sure. So I have I call it a meditation course, but it's not really, it's an experience more than a course, I guess is the best way to put it. And of course, I'll give you the link for it, but I believe it's 21 days. And honestly, of the things that I have done over the past few years, this little free meditation course is probably the thing that I feel best about. This thing is good. And so what it is, each day begins with a very short lesson. In many cases, it's less than 1 minute. It's me telling you about the type of meditation we're going to experience, and then you do it. And so, it's me talking for 1 minute, maybe 2 or 3 minutes at the most. And then there's a background track, which different types of sounds. And again, this plays into different types of meditation. Some of them are just white noise soundtracks. So, just kind of washing out the other noise that might be in your environment. And some of them use binaural beats. And, I'll talk a little bit about that as you go through the course. But really what it is 21, I believe, meditation experiences that you get to touch pretty much every day, a different facet or a completely different meditative technique. And at the end of the experience, you will have seen a lot. And you will begin to, you go into this knowing nothing, and you come out of it knowing a little bit more, but that's fine. You could have gotten that from reading a web page in 5 minutes. More than what you have learned is you've experienced, and you start to have some sense of what works for you, what feels good for you, and what you want to do more of. And then from there, it's relative. Honestly, this is not something this is something you need to do. This is something you need to experience. It's not something that you necessarily need to read a lot of books or, spend a lot of time listening to people talk about meditation. It's far better for you to do it. And that course is really designed, or the experience, I guess I should call it, is really designed to give you the experience, and to you can take that course and then just keep doing. I think everything you need to build a practice is there.
Okay, awesome. So I'll get the link off you for that one, and I'll put it up on the show notes so that people can find that quite easily. So how much time, what kind of time investment is required for that 21-day course?
It's been a while since I've gone through it myself, but I do know that some of the early days are very short, far less than 10 minutes, 5 or 6 minutes. I think there may be a few days near the end, because one of the objectives of the course is to get you comfortable sitting for longer periods of time. So, some of them stretch a little bit longer. I think the longest probably have you sitting about 15 minutes. So if you can carve out, plan on 15, 20 minutes a day at most over the course of roughly 3 weeks. And by the way, I don't think I've had some people say, that they keep repeating days until they think they really got it. I wouldn't do it like that. I would just go through and have an experience every day and, make a note. If you really love day 3 or you just didn't get day 3, you can come back and do that again at the end. But it really is designed to be cumulative no matter what happens. As if you miss a day, then, obviously do that day the next time you do it. But just go ahead to the next day and just go through the experience and see where you end up. And, I certainly would love to hear people's feedback and experiences with this. So when you work through the course, drop me a note, let me know how it went for you.
Yeah, cool. So I think at the top of this chat, you mentioned that you can often see benefits pretty quickly when you start. So do you think 21 days is long enough to kind of give you an indication if it's something that, really has some benefit?
Is it definitive? Maybe not, but is it long enough? I think it is. I've had many people tell me that people who said that this was their first experience with meditation and what they experienced in this course led to them creating something that became a regular and permanent part of their life. And for at least several people I've talked to, that has happened. So again, you're like with everything else, your mileage may vary, but it certainly is enough. And frankly, some of the techniques in this course, this is real stuff. These are not watered down, silly techniques. Some of these are powerful techniques that people have used to heal physical illnesses in some cases, and you can do real powerful stuff with these techniques. So it's what's there, I think, is certainly enough to give people a good experience.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to give it a go, and then I'll let you know what I think of it at the end. So, yeah.
I think if it's sorry to derail you, but I think that's also okay. In terms of other dangers, there are 2 more things that we probably should think about. And I think this is important. I should have put these up front a little bit more. People who struggle with anxiety or who struggle with, PTSD, things like that, there can be a very uncomfortable feedback loop that develops if you tell somebody who has panic attacks, for instance, to relax. It's like the struggle to relax creates another point of stress, and it can be very bad. Just to, again, just to speak plainly, there's certainly been stories of people who have had issues with severe depression and suicidal thoughts that have probably been made worse by their practices of meditation. And I think this is, to my thinking, this doesn't mean that we're afraid of meditation, but it means that you respect the power of it. And if you see something like this happening to yourself, or you know this is something you've struggled with in the past, you need to be prepared that if meditation brings this to the surface, you get the right kind of help. And, if you're that person, you probably know what the right kind of help is. It's probably professional help. And if you don't know what the right kind of help is, then you need to, then that's a journey and something you need to figure out too. But just as I said, you go into this experience I think for the vast majority of people, I'm not going to make up some percentage because I have no idea, but I think the vast majority of people who have who have an experience of meditation have a positive experience, but there is also a much smaller likelihood of some dangers and, potentially very dark sides. And if that happens to you, you're not alone, and it definitely is part of the power of the practice. But just know that it happens is something you get some help for.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you raise that, because you're absolutely right. When you look on the internet, and there's all this content about the benefits, but not very much about the dangers. So it's good to be well informed and understand both sides of the story. So
yes,
thanks for bringing those up. That's a very important consideration to make. So
sure.
Okay, so just about to wrap up now. Do you have any final or closing comments before we finish up?
No, I think I appreciate having the platform to discuss this. So much of what I talk about with trading is so technical, and I don't mean in the technical analysis sense, but I mean in the quantitative statistical sense, and the applied psychology of trading and trader development. And it's also I don't get enough chance to talk about this topic. It's something that is really important to me and has been important to my life experience as a trader, as a musician, as a human being. And so I certainly thank you for the opportunity to talk about this tonight.
Oh, not a problem. Thank you very much for joining us and sharing your knowledge and experience about meditation. So it was really interesting to hear and very helpful. And yeah, thanks again, Adam, and wish you all the best.
Thank you. You too. Take care.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Okay, well, that's it for this episode. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. Come on over to bettersystemtrader.com. That's where you'll find all the previous episodes, all the transcribes, all the show notes, and all the free weekly trading tips. bettersystemtrader.com.